Fantastic. So thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us. Without further ado, um, so we are here for, and this is our first official external webinar where we give you an insight into Zazuu, the brand, and also the design team working behind the scenes in terms of all the amazing design features you see, all the amazing, social media content, and just everything we're doing in general. So thanks for joining us. Just a little bit of introduction. My name is Tola, and I'm one of the co-founders and chief design officer here at Zazuu. My role basically involves overseeing everything from product design through to marketing design through to the overall brand as well. And just to give you a bit of background into me, I've always been extremely passionate about design. It's something that, I kind of realized from a very young age when I really, enjoyed sketching comic books and just drawing. And my mom initially assumed, she assumed, if you love drawing, then you must be an architect then. So I embarked on this journey to become an architect, and halfway through I realized that my actual passion is more graphic design. So I started out as a freelance designer in 2008, and for the next 2 years I basically worked across designing flyers for festivals, for parties, for events. And 2 years later I founded a branding agency called Swift Studios, and Swift Studios specialize in branding for startups as well as small to medium-sized businesses. And then every once in a while we'll work with a really huge brand. In 2015, 2016, Swift Studio was ranked top 100 design agencies in the UK, which is something I'm proud of. I'm not saying it to brag. I'm just saying it's just context. And that journey kind of led me to doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And in 2018, we came up with the idea for Zazuu. And since then, we've grown the company into what you know today. And so that's just a little bit about me. I've got David on the call, and also I've got Emmanuel on the call. So I'll hand over to David.
Okay, hi guys. My name is David Fayemi. I'm the product designer here at Zazuu, the life of Zazuu, yeah. So I like to describe myself as a product designer that loves products, yeah, but I also really like making it look pleasing. Yeah, I started but prior to that, I've literally been dabbling around with design. From way back in secondary school, yeah, when I first started using the computer at school to like create a Pepsi logo or do a couple of things, yeah. Over time, I have built skills and in diverse products, ranging from like finance, entertainment, cryptocurrency, corporate, e-commerce, hospitality, and so forth. And this has really improved my sense of design skills. Yeah, my background has made it like very possible for me to like design with empathy and not just users. Yeah, I'm also a community builder. People that know me know I really love to meet new people. So a community builder. I've worked with a couple of communities like the HND internship. Batteries is the community to grow motion designers here in Nigeria. The Untitled Design community, which is to build like awareness of designers here in Africa. I also work with a road trip community, which is a small to take up budding designers from like beginner level into like experience level. Yeah, so I love working with a lot of people. I also have like mentorship career, which is like I've mentored over like about 8,000 designers in a couple of 8 years with a couple of different internships like the HND internship, the Zuri internship, and the Reskill Americans program. Yeah, so that's literally me, but outside of work, you literally see me either partying or watching anime or meeting new people or doing something fun. As I said, I'm the life of the party here at Zazuu. So it's really lovely to meet you, and I really hope that you enjoy your time today with us.
Awesome. Thank you very much, David. Emmanuel, I'm gonna give you, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Try that.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Hi everyone. Yeah. David. That was quite an intro. Yeah, so my name is Emmanuel. Emmanuel. Yeah, and a fun fact about me is that I love Aquala like a lot. I don't know if you guys, if any of you know Ilamura. Ilamura makes, I feel like he makes the best Aquala music, you know. And I'm a big fan of, you know, Ilamura. I love music, and I'm very passionate about music. Also, I have 6 years of experience as a designer, but I would say I took design, I took design more seriously, say 3-4 years ago. So my journey to design is very, very funny. Like I started working at a photo lab, a photo laboratory, and the first design tool I ever used was Photoshop. And and basically what I used to do, it was just crop up pictures and stuff. But slowly, my passion started to grow, started to illustrate, and it was just really, really a beautiful process. So I have 3 years of experience, and I'm very passionate about brand design. I'm passionate about motion design. I'm passionate about 3D, and lately VR. Yeah, exactly. So again, here at Zazuu, I create different marketing assets, and I also lead the team that creates content on social media. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Thank you, and it's a pleasure to have you guys here.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you very much, David. So without further ado, we are going to jump into the actual presentation. But so David, if you could take us through the agenda for today.
Okay, great. So here today we will be discussing a couple of things. We have about 4 sessions. The first one where we discuss Zazuu, Zazuu as a product, where we tell you what exactly we do here at Zazuu and what kind of problems we are trying to solve. Then we go into the brand, how we come about, like what our brand entails, what is our brand messaging, and what exactly we are trying to like make people know about us. Then we go into like the major reasons why you guys are here today, which is to learn about our process for the new branding. Then we show you our playbooks, which is the step-by-step guide on what we did to move from like the beginning stage to how we actually came across the final brand. There we talk about, okay, what exactly were the communications that we did, what was our processes and etc. Then we finally ended up with the Q&A sessions where you guys are free to ask about questions in the chat, and then we pick about like 5 questions and then we get to it. Yeah, so really hoping that you guys will get to enjoy this session. And we've also had like a lot of plannings behind to make sure this is very interesting for you guys too. So let's get right onto it. Tola, back to you.
Thank you very much, David. So first of all, Zazuu is, the way I see that, the way I see Zazuu, there's Zazuu, the actual product, and there's Zazuu, the actual brand. A lot of our conversation today is probably going to be about Zazuu, the brand, but I think it makes sense to tell you a little bit about the actual problem that we're solving as a company. So at the moment, we know the whole cross payment space in terms of sending money abroad is actually broken. Consumers face high costs across the board, high fees, to actually send money to Africa, and Africa actually is one of the most expensive continents to send and receive money. Also, there's low transparency in terms of the actual providers. It's quite hard to find out, what you're being charged to actually send money. And then finally, the market space is actually fragmented, which is there's so many different providers who basically don't share, information, or don't share data, or just don't give you the flexibility to be able to switch between one or the other one. And typically, this is what we see in terms of how sending money is at the moment. First of all, it's very time consuming. On average, sometimes it can take up to two working days to actually send money. So in this case, we're using a fictional lady called Shade, and Shade actually represents, the the experience people in the diaspora actually people that send money to either their family, friends, or for business reason. And the typical flow that we see is Shadi wants to send 250. It starts out positive. The based on the current user experience, Shadi will typically go on Google to see what the latest exchange rate is. And then, if that's unsuccessful, she goes into WhatsApp and try to basically speak to her, we're calling them illegal agents, to basically try and see if they can move money for her. And after talking to all these different channels, she eventually selects one. Again, not actually knowing if she's getting the best rate, and also customer service is always a risk here because these aren't registered entities. If she decides to go with I guess a more sort of traditional agent, she finds herself taking a long time in order to do ID verification. And then eventually once the payment is made, sometimes it could take up to 24 hours for her to even receive confirmation that money is in progress. And then all the way leads to a point where the money is eventually delivered. And based on all this stress that she's gone through, and also this is something that she will do on a repeated pattern, because from our data we see that people send money on average about 3 to 4 times a month. So imagine her going through all this stress, and also this doesn't actually even add to her credit score, or doesn't even qualify her for any I guess additional financial benefits for her actually sending money through these agents. So as you can see, it's a very broken system, it's a very broken flow, and the experience is quite negative as well. So what we've done is we've created the world's first global payments aggregator, and we've made sending money seamless. It's a brand new experience. We are literally the first money transfer aggregator that allows people to send money and actually compare all these different entities all in one place, and then send money. And as you can see, the flow is a lot smoother. It goes from you signing up smoothly, you do your KYC once, you compare all these providers all in one place, and then easily just send money at the tap of a button. And again, this is just showing you again what you can do within the actual product. So let's say you're looking to send £100 to Ghana. As soon as you type in the £100 from the UK to destination Ghana, automatically it brings up different providers. You can choose your best one, in this case, Zend, and you can basically pay within the app without actually leaving the app, and also track the progress of your money automatically. And all this is done sometimes in as quickly as 2 minutes. End to end. So again, what we're doing here is actually solving something that has been a huge problem for Africans in the diaspora, or just people who send money to Africa generally. So that's Zazuu, the product, and I think this is probably the side of Zazuu people are a lot more familiar with, based on the marketing we've been doing. Now, talking about Zazuu, the brand, I think this is the area lots of people probably know very little about, because we are still a young brand, we are still building, but we also realize this internally that we have very strong values, we have a very strong mission, but very few people actually really understood what Zazuu stood for beyond the actual product, which is what then made us embark on looking at our brand holistically across the board. And I'm going to take you through some of that process. So the first stage of what we did was to go through a discovery process, and what that entailed was us conducting a visual audit of our current visual ID. Again, brand identity hadn't been touched in about 3 years, and it had evolved many times, due to the iteration, of our product, but the brand actually remained the exact same. Again, we started to notice lots of inconsistencies across the board. So we needed to, first of all, do an audit of all the assets that we put out on social media, across the product, on our website, and also printed material as well. Then we conducted an internal survey with stakeholders, and stakeholders being the executive team as well as the founders. And then eventually we conducted another survey with all the team members. And again, the importance of doing this is we just don't want to create something that we feel very strongly about without actually carrying everyone along, because ultimately these are going to be the people that are championing the brand both internally as well as externally. The results of the survey gave us enough tools, enough insights for us to then start to formulate a brief. And then final thing we did was then to set up a rebrand committee that would be responsible for feedback and also signing off. The format we actually used there is something called RACI. So that's RASSCI, which is responsible, accountable, supporting, consulted, and informed. So you need to know at various stages who you need to be, who you need to be engaging with, and basically carry people along at various stages. Again, we kept the committee intentionally small, and we tried to get at least one person from each department, just to make sure that we are covering our blind spots as designers, because sometimes what we think is good, other people might slightly disagree. Then the next stage, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to share them in the chats as we're going along. Then the next stage is define. So again, discovery is all about just trying to understand what's happening. And then once you then have all the information, you start to almost carve away at what needs to be done. So the first thing we did there was take all the insights and basically turn them into a brief. Then we facilitated internal workshops, and the purpose of these workshops was to get to the root of why does Zazuu exist. So this is where we started clarifying things like, what values do we want to, stand for? We started clarifying, how do we want the world to see us? What's our message? And all these things already existed, but it existed in very raw form. Then finally, all these different outcomes distilled into a document that we titled a brand foundation and personality document. And we kind of use that as a progressed version of the actual initial brief. Then we moved on to the next stage. So this is where we started to design. So we kicked off the design using the brand foundation document I just spoke to you about, as well as the visual audit as a brief or as a reference point, because ultimately we are trying to shift the visual look of the brand from where we currently are and also fix some of the issues that we were having. So it definitely makes sense to keep referencing that original document, and I'll be sharing what that journey sort of looks like shortly after this. Then we went through rounds of presentation to try and nail a visual direction, and also then went on to develop all the core identity elements, such as the logo, colors, fonts, shapes, patterns, etc. And you can actually see some of those shapes on display now. Then the final thing we did was developed a very clear brand architecture, because we have very ambitious plans to launch, additional products as well as potential sub brands or even sub companies in the future. So it was very useful for us to really clarify what the naming structure and the overall brand architecture is going to be. And just very quickly, when it comes to brand architecture, you mostly have two strategies. One is you either build a branded house or you build a house of brands. A branded house basically is something like, what can I use as an example? Virgin. So you've got Virgin Media, Virgin Mobile, Virgin this, Virgin that, or very similar to what, I guess, for those based in Nigeria, what Dangote has done in terms of all the various products under this one brand called Dangote. And a house of brands is something like Procter and Gamble that basically have all these sub brands under them, but they don't share any similarities in terms of visual identity or even any sort of brand details. So Procter and Gamble has, Pampers has, different sort of FMCG brands and products underneath that one brand. Then the final stage is delivery. So this is where we finalize all the assets and basically compile that into a brand playbook that will be distributed across across teams internally and also shared externally as well. We conducted a number of workshops with internal stakeholders. So these will be the people using this playbook regularly, as well as people that maybe might need to reference it maybe every once in a while. Then we created assets to announce the brand refresh across various touch points. So within the actual products, so on websites, on social media, and also on regular assets such as presentation templates. Then finally, we decided on when to announce, and we announced to the public via a written piece on the website, which, and then we also created a brand video, which I will show you shortly. Well, I'll show you now, actually. So just moving on, we're moving on to how everything looks, because I think talking you through the process definitely helps you set it sets the mood for everything you're now going to see. So I'm just going to show you the video. But before I do that, I will make sure the sound, by the way, the sound might be a bit loud, so please feel free to, hold on. How did we do this again, David? Oh yeah, there we go. Share computer sound. So feel free to lower your sound. Just
yeah, okay.
Oh. Right. So actually, let me turn off. Great. So that was the video we kind of used to reveal the brand, and we kept it very high level in terms of focusing on what makes Zazuu Zazuu, as opposed to focusing on how the products can be used or or any sort of product messaging. And you can find that on YouTube. We can share the link shortly after the presentation. So now let me take you through what the process looks like. I'm going to flick through these very, very quickly, just because I'm very aware of time. So this is the brand audits we did, and as you can see, this was done back in January. And yeah, so this is the overview. We're developing a brand playbook for Zazuu over the next couple of months. We'll be telling you more. So again, all this was very internal. For now, in order to plan for the playbook, we've compiled application examples of the current Zazuu brand in this presentation. Please feel free to complete this survey. So again, we had a link to the survey on the last slide. Without speaking too much, of course, there's been the confusion with our fellow gentleman here, who put out a song. But again, I'm not going to delve into that. So we considered, should we even change our name? Should we stick to our name, and how do we tackle issues where our brand has been associated with someone who we might not necessarily want to be associated with. We looked at our logos, how it was showing up in different places. We looked at colors. We looked at some of our social media assets. We looked at typography. We looked at, again, as I said, some printed assets. We looked at again how typography was showing up, and we realized just things were showing up in a very inconsistent way across the board. We looked at iconography. We looked at how icons are being used within a current product. We looked at our pattern, and from the audits, we realized our pattern probably is one of the most recognizable feature of the brand, and also probably the most valuable, I would say, second to the logo and name. So it was quite important that we figured out how to utilize this again without using it in a very overpowering way like we've been doing. Again, just showing how the pattern was in use across different touch points. Again, we looked at how we addressed photography and graphics. We looked at how we, what type of pictures we were even using on our social media. A lot of them felt very stocky, and there just wasn't any consistency in terms of, a photography style. We looked at videos. Again, some had thumbnails, some had no thumbnails. It just felt very random. We looked at video thumbnails as well on our social media channel, specifically Instagram. We looked at illustration, and as you can see, we had all sorts of styles going. We had, vectors. We had, stencil, art. We had, scribbles. We had all manner of different things going on. And then also we looked at brand messaging and what our tone of voice was across, social media, on the websites, and also within the actual product itself. Again, just looking at how we showed up on social media, on the website, within the product, within product components, and email, presentation slides, internal presentations. And you can kind of tell, everything just felt quite all over the place. There wasn't a consistent story across the board. And that was the link to the survey, which I want to show you now. Then all the survey, as I said, during the define stage, we managed to set a brief, and this was the brief we used, which is to summarize where we are today, and kind of flag all the things that weren't working for us. And being a young startup means we're moving very quickly, and moving very quickly meant we're creating things very quickly, and that also meant that we're always building something that looked like a Frankenstein, unintentionally. Then we figured out what we wanted to do, which is to create consistency. Then again, just touching on the survey, we kind of gathered, what we, things that we highlighted from this. And as you can see, one of those meant we needed to speak to the founders to actually really get to the heart of why Zazuu was even founded in the first place, and also talk to customers to try and understand how they resonate with the brand. I'm not going to go through all this in detail, but we went through everything, and what we ended up with was what we needed to do. And we needed to consolidate everything all into one place. And then that consolidation meant, looking at our visuals as well as our messaging. And we needed to basically create a new playbook. And the playbook was going to be broken down into 4 parts, which is the foundations, which is our messaging, our personality, identity, and then templates that we're going to use to express them. The foundations were who we are, what we do, our purpose, our mission, our vision, our values. Personality, again, how we show up. So if Zazuu was a human being, how would Zazuu show up? So our character, our tone of voice, how we speak, our proposition statements, taglines, messaging, language, etc. Then identity. So this is more visual. Again, when someone says, "Oh, my brand, my logo," it's like your logo is not your brand. I'm sure everyone in the room has never said that. Fingers crossed. But a brand is bigger than just your logo. Your logo is just one of the aspects you use to communicate, certain characteristics of your brand. So in identity, we looked at our design principles. Again, what are the principles we use to guide? We just don't want to create good looking designs. We want to create designs that feel like Zazuu. So we looked at logo, wordmark, icons, design guidelines, partnership lockup, because a lot of what we do also involves quite a lot of partnerships because we're an aggregator. So we need, we are working with money transfer companies and payout partners, etc. Our color palette, icons, patterns, backgrounds, photography, illustration, typography, videos. Templates, we looked at presentation templates, we looked at social media templates, and we also looked at marketing collateral as well. And yeah, that's it. Everything basically fed into, we needed to have conversation with the executive team. We needed to begin designing, which is the next thing I'm going to show you. And then we needed to, again, speak to the rebrand committee to gather comments, feedback, etc. And then also create a backlog of activities on what we're doing now and what we're doing later, because you can't do everything all in one go. And that was it. Don't worry, please be patient with me. We're almost there. And I'll run through this. I'm not even gonna talk through all of them. So these were some of the slides from some of the internal design sessions we had. So based on the pattern, again, because our pattern was probably the most recognizable feature, we started to consider how it's currently being used, and also we started to get inspiration from some African patterns, from some African prints as well. We looked at a whole bunch of different things, and eventually we started to land on something that we felt quite comfortable with. And then these are just more examples and case studies. Then we started to look at typography, again, just gathering inspiration. Then we looked at different typeface pairings. We looked at them in context of how it would look once we started bringing, patterns, images, colors. Then finally, we landed on this. One of the inspiration was this Ndebele mural design, which really spoke to us, and it formed the basis of what we actually ended up creating. Again, just looking at some additional research and references, we started to kind of experiment experiment. None of all this kind of felt comfortable. And we landed on this moment where we decided to almost explode this whole pattern and use those individual shapes as opposed to using the shapes as a collective, because we didn't want anything that would compete with our existing pattern. We just wanted additional elements to support it. Then we looked at color. Again, we realized a lot of the colors we're using were our teal color and our orange color. So we needed supporting colors to, refresh the brand and, make it a lot more vibrant. And yeah, again, just exploring different sort of colors here. And eventually we started to land on what what you can see today externally, which is, these are our primary colors, our secondary colors. And then we started to work out pairings that actually felt very good or that felt visually comfortable. We looked at patterns, and we started to look at how we would treat illustrations as well. Again, just some further exploration. For example, we decided against this because this is quite a common treatment you would find. And we wanted to land on something that, even if you saw that illustration without seeing the word Zazuu, you just know it's Zazuu. If I took away the word Zazuu from this image, just this orange bit here, you will struggle to know if that was Zazuu or someone else. Again, exploration. And that's the end of the design phase. And I'll just take you through the actual, so this is our playbook that we landed on. So this is the culmination of all the various exploration all in one place, including messaging. So again, it's broken down into foundations and the identity elements. So foundation, this is our purpose. This is our mission, which is to give Africans smart ways to move their money. And our vision, which is to create a world where Africans have financial freedom. These are our core values. The session we had just to try and land on these values, it probably took about 3 hours. And it took lots of conversations because we just don't want to use words that were nice words. These are principles that we live by through and through, and we hire people based on these values as well. Our personality, again, it goes into a lot of detail about what that means and what that doesn't mean. So I will use one example. We are smart. Again, smart is one word that we use quite frequently, which means we work intelligently and in a considered way. What does this mean? It means we're thoughtful, we're streetwise, and we're hip. I don't like that word hip. But what this doesn't mean, it doesn't mean we're aloof, which is, we're trying to almost show off. It doesn't mean we're professorial, which is because we're smart, we're going to tell you what to do. No, that's not us. And also, it doesn't mean we're ponderous. Our tone of voice, we're friendly, witty, confident, and contemporary. Again, we're very mindful of the duality of what the positive and the negative sides of what these things could mean. So that's why we've taken time to clarify what this means for us specifically. I'm not going to go into this. Again, we start to look at language and how we structured, messaging across the board. Then we start to create rules around, our logo, how it shows up, how we frame our logo in different contexts. Again, it doesn't always need to be in a square or in a circle. We can actually have some fun. We start to look at grids and spacing. We start to look at breathing minimum space around the logo. We start to look at positioning. We start to look at lockups for partners. Again, positioning, one thing we wouldn't do is place the logo in the middle of someone's face, because then it's like we're saying the opposite, which is it's not about them, it's about us, you know. So these kind of subtle things, for example, one of the rules is you can't place a logo over people's face. We start to look at colors, what the palettes were, pairings when it's 4 colors, pairings when it's 3 colors, and you can see the different weights based on size. We looked at typography, the different types, and again, applying some rules around how to use them. And we brought in this underlining visual device to highlight specific things within text, and you'll see that play out in a lot of what we create. Again, this is just an example of the spacing and how everything kind of works. Our patterns, I know time is really going, so I won't go into this. Our shapes, the shapes, again, that were inspired by the Ndebele painted houses. Again, there's a rationale behind why we use this, and we are gonna make this playbook public, so feel free to, you know, go through it in a lot more detail. Photography, how we treat photography, how we lock up photography in terms of masking them and framing them. What we don't do in terms of photography. So again, yes, we use stock images from time to time, but we're very particular about what type of stock images we use as well. Then how we treat illustration as well, using various elements. And these are just some examples of how that comes to life. Then we start to give examples of how we basically bring it to life in terms of application. So this is social media, again, on stories. And we wrote a motion guideline as well to try and ensure that whatever we do when it comes to motion is also consistent. And part of that work was creating a logo animation that we use in our social media content, as well as we're about to integrate into the app as well. Again, how we deal with intro cards on videos, how we deal with subtitling, and also how we deal with outro cards as well. Again, based on motion and video, how do we deal with you know, showing people's names and titles, let's say, on videos. And that's it. Sorry I rushed through that. I'm gonna bring up I guess how we have brought our brand to life using within our product, and David is gonna take over from here.
Oh, okay. I guess it's my turn already. Hi guys. So Tola, do I get like sharing ability?
Yes, let me stop sharing my screen and give you right to do so. I'm gonna make you host. Go. Right, your host. Go for it.
Okay. I should be able to share my screen now. All right. Just let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, so design systems at okay. Yeah, so design systems at Zazuu. So just like every product team, our job is to make sure our product is like usable, consistent, and is accessible for all our users. Yeah, and to do this, we have to create a kind of like a central source of truth for all our design decisions and for our design system, and update it to our new brand. So this took about like, I think about 3 weeks or about a month. So we had to like, again, it's startup life. Yeah, you have to rush as fast as possible to get something. So we had to go back into what we currently had. We looked at a lot of patterns on our product, and we looked at a couple of what's the name, and we decided to go with a quick method by which we can create a design system that would be used for like set of standards that will be used over time, so that even other people that can join later will be able to easily understand this. And so we decided to build using a kind of atomic model, which is done by taking up like a section and building on those sections to make sure they're like over top. So we decided to work, so this is our foundations. The foundations are like color, typography, iconography, and grid. So I will just give you a brief overview, then we'll go deep into it. Well, just quickly. So we built on our color, typography. Then from there, we're able to go into like the molecules, which is like building up a lot of components, and those components can later be combined together to form like the cards. So I'll just be going fast into it. So yeah, for our typography, we decided to go with the circular STD rather than the CY font, because we focused on legibility. As I said, we really want to make sure it is very accessible for people to read. And we noticed that the CY font might not be so legible. So we decided to go with the circular STD for product. Then we decided to make use of the third method by which we designed each heading font and each typography font. If you also notice, we took our design system is fully tokenized, meaning that we are making use of a major sense of truth that defines our design like decisions. So each of our typography is set by some certain type of styles, and each of them is named, so you know what exactly to use each type of font and everything. So we have documentations for headings that will be used for page titles, the font size, the line heights, and the trackings to be used. This goes from H1 to H6. For those of you that really want to enter a design system later, we might probably have another session to go into it. And so for our paragraphs also, we have each sense of directions and standards by one of them to be used. We decided to make use of atomic systems. So we have our atoms, which are typography, color, our icons, our spacings, and our grids. Then from also our molecules, which are also defined. So these are our colors. All our colors are WACHG AA accessible. So we spent time to make sure everything here is visible, easily visible for everybody, and it's not going to be like bad contrast and every stuff. We also have our directions for all our icons. Our icons, our spacing is also defined. So we use our 4-point grid for spacings, same thing for the grids, and also for our molecules, we have them all defined. So you can see that we are making use of tokens for each one of them and directly down the line to everyone. So that's it for quickly for our product. So back to you, Tola. Oh yeah, I have to meet you.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much for that. And again, I think, as David said, we've tried to ram quite a lot into this session. So I think definitely we would have a follow-up session talking specifically about design system, and David will definitely be talking us through that. And this is something we definitely want to do regularly, just to give back, and also just to showcase some of what we're doing internally as well, just to be able to share tools, tips, and just ideas on how we've achieved what we've achieved. So I am going to resume sharing my screen. So now you've seen it all. And even though we did rush through a whole bunch of that, we'll be sharing some links as well as the recording shortly after this. Now is the time to ask questions. So let's talk. I'm just going to go through the chat now to go back. Thanks for everyone that was engaging in there.
We already have one question from Billionaire.
Okay, do you mind reading that out, please, David?
Yeah, so he says, thank you so much, Architect Tola. This is a valuable session. And he would like to ask, for a startup team with extremely limited resources, what would you say should be the one thing they should focus on with reference to building a recognizable brand?
Fantastic question. And my response would be go and get more resources. I'm just kidding. You know, with any company that's just, you know, starting out or very much still at the early stage, my advice would always be focus. You can't do everything. So you need to definitely understand what's valuable to your customers or your users at this stage, and just focus on that. Don't try to, because you see one brand doing, you know, 3D designs that are, that's, you know, take long to make, or that are, extremely complicated, or even cost lots of money. Don't be tempted to just jump into that, because it's it's the trend. Focus on what is valuable to your customers at this stage, and just keep talking to them and just grow from there. We could have done this rebrand years ago, or actually probably about 2 years ago, but we intentionally focused on, we needed to have a product working, and the brand we had, yes, it wasn't perfect, but we needed to basically get to a certain milestone, and then focus on rebranding. And even the rebrand that we've done, we put things into a backlog. There were things that we needed to do immediately, which we did, and there are things still on that backlog that we're stretching out over 6 to 12 months. So not everything needs to be done all at once. With my response. Cool. Thanks for reading that, David. Let's see. Aditayo says data sessions is very important, please. Yes, we are going to be hosting that, and we'll provide more details to everyone that signed up for this. Awesome. I think that's all the questions. Thank you very much, everyone, for taking part. We have about 6 minutes, 5 minutes now to go. So if there are any questions, please feel free to share.
We have a question from Corridor that says, what makes the design team so great?
I'll let you take this, David.
Put me on the spot there. So our design team is focused, is filled with so many like talented designers. We have Tola with experience in design. He's like one of the best inspirations for me as a designer, even one of the best people I've got to work with as a design team lead. His experience guides us and directs us, is almost like a creative director for us. We have Emmanuel, who is one of the top-notch, like top snipers in visual design. He makes up very, sorry about that. He makes up very, Tola, you're disturbing me. He makes very crazy, like very crazy inspirational designs. He brings up like very top ideas that you would not even notice, some things that you would not even imagine, and you just see him in every spot, and he's like so excited to do various things. You see his hand in various things like motion design, you see his hand in illustrations, you see his hand in 3D, you see his hand in AR, VR, and he's just so excited to do many things. And I, as your humble person over here, I'm just like very interested in solving problems, and that's like the entire team. We are like a trio that cannot like be broken down. So we just have this amazing synergy between each and every one of us, and we help each other back to back to also like improve. Yeah, so we have design sessions where we even like have one-on-one sessions between ourselves, trying to like, okay, pick up on our weaknesses and also make us get better. We have like a session, we have a channel on Slack where we like post inspirations to ourselves, where we say, okay, this is something very exciting that we saw over the weekend, and everybody's always just like, it's one of our values here to be very accountable. Yeah, so
The gods of Zoom. Right,
yeah?
David, we lost you. I think we lost you briefly, but
oh
yeah.
Okay.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
That's fine.
I'm just mindful of time, but I think everything you said is absolutely spot on. I don't think it's just based on the execution. I think it's so many factors all in. And you know, something you did mention about Emmanuel there. You know, there's a hunger that you just can't teach. There's a hunger that is either you have it or you don't. And you know, I I love working with people that have that hunger, because skills can be learned, but that hunger, it can't be, you just can't learn it. It's either you have it or you don't. So despite us being a very small team, I think this is probably one of the most efficient teams I've actually worked with in terms of the speed at which we, execute, and not just execute at a basic level, execute at a really high level, and there's a attention to detail that I am obsessed with, that the rest of the team as well has really taken that on as well. So thank you, David. Thanks, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, I'm gonna if you want to share anything, let me actually stop sharing my screen. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have said it all, but just to add, one or two, I think one thing that has helped us so far is of course, the hunger, the this, the that, but also the willingness of every team member to be there, to provide support. And Tola is a really amazing person, right? Like, he's always there to provide support, to correct, to give references. So yeah, the support system that the team has is really, really amazing. And that's so rare and beautiful.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you very much. I'm just gonna pick out 2 more questions and then we'll call it a day, because we've got less than a minute now. Kenneth says, what are the signals that a product needs a brand refresh? I think if you are living and breathing the brand daily and you're talking to your customers, you'll just know that the signals will be there, and that wouldn't be driven by a need to keep up with the trends, or you'll just know instinctually. And if you're unsure, a good way to actually test that is to do a brand audit, where you do a visual audit, and that would always kind of tell you how people see the brand away from how you see the brand as well. So that's a very quick way of responding to that. Billionaire says, do you guys have a specific technique you use for brainstorming? Don't get me started. There are techniques that we use, and actually we could do a session around that. So that's something that I'm extremely passionate about, and definitely I would love to do a session around that. Billionaire again, is Zazuu open to a CSR project of teaching African designers their design process? Yes, reach out to me. I'm gonna put my email in this chat, so just drop me an email and tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking. Great. Oh, cool. David has dropped a link in here. We would also share that link in the email that we send out. So thank you to everyone. Thanks for, oh, hold on, sorry. I sent my email to David accidentally. Let me share it here publicly. So yeah, thank you very much. It's been an absolutely amazing session. Thanks for showing up, and we'll continue to do this, because again, we're all about community, where if we win, we want everyone else to win, and everything we know, we're more than happy to share as we go along. So thank you. Have a great evening, and catch you on the next session.
All right.
Thanks,
bye
everyone.
guys. Thank you for attending.